welcome back to Life Talks. This is Brian.
And Melissa.
And we are back in the sauna today with a very special guest. We're very excited. He's a musician, and his name is Jordan Kelch. So welcome to the show.
I am glad to be here, Brian and Melissa.
So to start off, before we even get into the questions, we're going to do some little bit of a game here, right?
All right, yeah, because Catholic youth groups, we always do a game beforehand. That's what I do. I'm a youth minister, so I can't do anything without games. I just don't know how to function without them, right? So we're gonna play a little this or that with our guest Jordan.
All right. Okay. What do we got? Okay. Bad haircut or bad hair dye?
Bad haircut or bad? I've never dyed my hair, so I'm going to have to say bad haircut because at least I know what that's like. I've had bad haircuts.
Okay.
How bad was it?
Well, I cut my own hair. So I was 10 years old and I didn't like the haircut I had. So I just took scissors and cut my own hair. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, that probably was awful. No
Yeah.
offense.
One art form I didn't take up was cutting hair.
Have you ever gone bald?
No, I have not.
Oh,
if I ever go bald naturally, I'm gonna have to grow my beard out long enough to make up for it.
Sure. Okay. Well, maybe this Lent you can go bald. Just think about it for a bit. So Okay, let's take the next one.
All right. So would you rather? Oh, speaking of a sauna, would you rather be in a sauna or a hot tub?
Oh man, that's a good question. That's a tough one. I'd have to say hot tub. Let's say right now, I think I'd say a hot tub because humidity is just it's present.
I would agree.
Yes,
totally. Yep.
Hot tub that's turned off.
Yeah, we actually went to Colorado and we were in a bunch of hot springs, and some of them after a few minutes you're like, I'm done. It's just too hot.
109 degrees
in the summer, right? Yeah. So, okay. Next one is hair in food or undercooked food. Which would you take?
Do I know the person's hair?
Ooh, that's a good question.
question.
Didn't think about that.
I think that has a big part in it. If I don't know whose hair it is, I'd probably have to go undercooked food, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And if you didn't know whose hair was?
No, if I did know, then I would go with hair in the food.
Gotcha.
At least,
and how about
if they're clean.
Right.
If I didn't know the person's hair, I'd probably have to go with undercooked food.
Yeah.
Maybe depending on what kind of food it is, though.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking at a restaurant.
Yeah.
So
it's however you look at it, it's scary for sure.
Yeah, that's a scary one. I can get sick from the undercooked food.
But I mean, really, how often have we been cooking at home or is that my hair? And you're so hungry because you want it. You're like, yeah, it's gotta be mine, man.
Oh yeah, it's like a different color, and you're like, yeah, it's mine, whatever.
Right. Okay, last one, you got it.
Oh yes, this is a good one. No cell phone for 30 days, or 5-minute cold showers every day for 30 days.
Oh, that's a really good one because honestly, I've done both of those.
Oh yes.
I'm gonna have to go with no phone for 30 days because that sounds like a luxury to me more than anything, really.
Totally.
The other one's definitely a penance.
Yeah.
Not that penance is bad, but I'm gonna have to say,
enjoyable.
Yeah, the phone one's definitely a luxury.
Yeah, absolutely. I just saw Matt Fradd did an episode where he gave up the cell phone. I haven't seen it yet, but
right.
Yeah. Totally. Well, I think we'll dive into some of the serious stuff. It's not that serious. Okay. So I think we just want to get to know you as a person. So who is Mr. Kelch? Outside of music, family, friends, hobbies, odd jobs, kind of just to give our audience a little bit of a background about yourself.
Yeah. Outside of music, I'm pretty transparent. I'm studying theology, right? Grad school for theology. So I'm taking classes there, and I work. I read a lot. My work consists of music mostly, so I work at a music store, and I do work at a recording studio as well in part time. But other than that, I pretty much do the same thing. Most of my day-to-day life is praying and going out into nature. Today I actually went on a hike, and I took a hammock with me, and I just read Tolkien, Hobbit.
Oh yeah.
Came home, took a nap, and here I am. It's a pretty pleasant day overall.
Yeah, sounds pretty dreamy, actually.
It does. I would have to say the main thing that takes up my life outside of music is probably school. Yeah, reading every day. So
Was Tolkien for school or that was pleasure?
that was pleasure. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you.
I'd have to say that's pleasure.
Yeah. Melissa just finished up her master's. Was that last December?
No, it was
Theology.
in May.
Oh, May?
Oh, master's in what?
So at the Augustine Institute, they have a leadership of the new evangelization. And so I started out my master's in biblical theology at John Paul the Great. They closed their program halfway through. So then I was like, okay, Jesus, what do I do now? And so then I was able to transfer to the Augustine. So
that's fun. Yeah. Biblical studies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How much school you got left? Pardon me.
Probably about a year and a half, give or take. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool,
a lot of great people. That's honestly most of the learning consists of the people that I'm in classes with rather than the classes themselves. Going to lunch with a classmate that's much more humble and much more intelligent than myself, and just talking about the things that we've talked about in class, and I didn't even think about that, things like that. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I missed out on that. I did a distance program at both schools, but still a great experience. But yeah, when you can just have those discussions and those dialogues, that's like where it all comes together.
Yeah.
I don't know why the thought just occurred to me. Like, and you also learn a lot just from like praying over the material you've like seen. I think of Aquinas. He's like, basically for all his smarts, he's like, I get the most from prayer, actually. So it's crazy. But
amen to that. I've learned that more lately than I ever have before. Theology of the Body is a class I'm taking with Waldstein, who is actually the translator of the original text to English.
Okay. Wow.
So it's it's like the guy to take it with.
Wow.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff is, he's very passionate about it, and I get to take it to prayer, and just it's almost like talking to John Paul II himself. Taking that stuff to prayer it's deeply affected me in big ways. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. I'm sorry, there's a question that's like really going through my mind right now. Do you mind if I?
Sure.
Do you caffeinate a lot with everything that you have going on?
Coffee.
Okay.
I actually have coffee right now.
Spot on.
Because I'm like, yeah, you have the part-time job, you have like music, you have school. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's it sounds busy. But I'm not many people know this about me, but I'm actually 100% an introvert. I'm not extroverted, even though I take part in all of these very like a public ministry, and but the Lord calls and you answer. So yeah, a lot of caffeine. I can't. I'm a totally different person when I wake up in the morning and I haven't had coffee yet. It's crazy. It's crazy how much of a difference I am. And my roommate, my housemate, he's totally the opposite. He'll wake up and immediately ask me questions about what I'm doing today. Within 5 minutes, I'm like, dude.
Okay, so it's not just me.
Oh, no. Yeah, I can deeply relate. Also an introvert, and it takes me about maybe 5 hours to wake up.
Yep.
But yeah, that's funny.
I'm still waking up from this morning.
Oh yeah, no kidding, right? I'm already ready to get in bed. So I just want to ask you one last question. So do you have family in the area, or are you away from family? I don't know where you grew up.
Yeah, Northwest Ohio is where I grew up. My sister moved down here about a year or two before I moved. So she lives about 30 minutes away from me, with my nephew. My godson lives right down the road as well. They live together, and we have, my niece was just born last October, and then we have another one coming in, I think, December. They have another one coming in December. So
cool.
Big family coming. It's awesome. Super exciting. So
that is
yeah,
exciting.
Awesome.
So I have my sister here.
Good. Yeah, it's so important to have family around. Definitely have lived in some places where I'm solo and it's fun and it's adventurous, but there's nothing like being around, people you can just really relate to and on that deeper level. So that's great.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of family around you guys?
So I do. My parents and siblings are here. So I have a brother and sister. Within 30 minutes, really, and
cool.
And we have like relatives in the Chicagoland area, so they're kind of spread about. But she's
Yeah.
actually from Colorado, so she had to make the move. I didn't force her. No, the Lord called her this way, which is kind of weird. We thought when we were dating, actually, ended up in Colorado, but
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
the Lord was like, yes,
Right.
you are. So, okay.
So like Ohio, we're in the flatlands, and
Yeah.
you know, but that's how it goes.
But there's still hiking opportunities and
Yeah.
there's beauty everywhere, right? As you
Yeah,
found
well,
today.
it's crazy. Close friend of mine, Nathan, his name's Nathan Reich. He's also a musician. We did an album together, uh, unknown album. Now, I don't talk about it a whole lot, but it's with Somehow Grace. And he did a lot of the mixing and writing. We did a lot of the writing together. He moved to Fort Wayne when I lived in Fort Wayne. He moved to Fort Wayne from Colorado, and he loves Fort Wayne. He likes it way more. Partially, he lived in like the city, and is not a big city guy, and he lived in Denver, so
Okay, yeah.
just the hustle and bustle wasn't for him.
Understand that, yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, you just never know. Never know.
Yeah, but he's happy in Fort Wayne, so
Good. I feel like I saw that. Is that on Spotify? Or was I
it
reading
is.
Okay, I think I saw that when I
Yeah.
downloaded some of your songs for my confirmation retreat today. And then so I saw that.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it was fun. All right, next one.
Okay,
Baba.
our second question officially. So who's
Officially.
been an inspiration to you growing up? Anybody.
That's yeah. You know how hard that question is, because there's so many people that you can. But my immediate thought goes to my uncle, my great uncle George. He was a priest, and he lived till he was about 98 years old, and deep theology. He was very into his theology. He'd go to his house, and he'd be sitting in his favorite chair, just reading Ratzinger or Casper, reading the heretics of the early church, and just thinking about these things. And at that time, I was just a high school kid, so he was extremely talkative, and he wanted to talk about this theology with people, and he loved talking because it was a form of love, showing people love when he would communicate these things, these ideas that he had, and these thoughts. But it was way over my head at the time. Actually, it's probably still way over my head right now. But there was a deep connection that was made, even though he was speaking things over my head. He would talk about singing. He was very into singing, and he would sit there and he would talk about these theology, and they'd say, "I want to sing a song for you," and he would just start singing there in the middle of his reading. I have a recording on a tape of him singing a song. So a lot of that's actually what influenced me to go into theology and to change my life and turn my life back towards the Lord, was realizing who my Uncle George was and who I was becoming. So he was a big influence on everything in my life, still is. I actually just thought about it last night. Thought about him last night. So
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
that's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's so cool that the way that you express it, like the passion just comes out that like he had the theology and the music, and then obviously that's a huge connection for you, but the fact that he wanted to share it, because a lot of people have these loves and these passions, and they're like not always able to share for whatever reasons, insecurities, or they just want to keep it to themselves. But like the beauty of being that light to others and just sharing your love can do so much, and we don't think about that all the time.
That is cool. I just think of when you said you didn't always understand it, and I could gather that as a high schooler, but you still saw something beautiful in your uncle, something different, right? Something maybe past the norm, more eternal, and as opposed to all the noise of the world. Like this guy, I don't quite understand him, but there's something beautiful about him, and there's some type of truth that he's expressing. So
there was something very authentic and very human about him. That was what that's what drew people into him, was the authenticity and the humanness to him. And I think that has a big touch on my music, is this deep, like, just real with people. I don't do music for other people, really. I do it for myself, and I share it, like Melissa was saying, but it's just who I am and how I'm struggling with these things in the light of Christ and what he's revealing to me. It doesn't have to be a happy song to be a Christian song, you know? So
Right.
I think my Uncle George really revealed that to me through prayer after he died, especially. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. So would you say that like your musical roots come from like music in your family, maybe your uncle, or were there others that also kind of brought you up in this musical um, environment, or did you kind of discover that on your own a little bit?
Yeah. My family really nobody in my family was really very musical. My older brother was. He played bass guitar in a band in high school. So it was more of a like party thing. They just wanted to play music. They weren't, I don't want to say they were bad, but they were pretty bad. Sorry, Craig, if you're watching this. But
We'll send
they
it
weren't
directly
they
to
weren't
him.
great.
No.
But I remember wanting to be just like my older brother, and he played bass guitar. So I didn't understand the difference between a bass guitar and a regular guitar. So I went out and bought a regular guitar and I brought it home and I realized it wasn't the same thing.
Oh.
And I was like, oh man, I don't get to be like my older brother now. But it grew from there. It grew from this just wanting to be like my older brother. And now, you know, he doesn't play guitar as much as he wants to anymore. My younger sister does play some guitar, some piano. She plays some piano. She's pretty good. She's a good singer. She doesn't take it as seriously as I do, but she probably should. She's pretty good. So a lot of my inspiration, I would say, comes from um, other than my Uncle George, just to be who I am, really. But the musical inspiration, I would say, comes from just picking that guitar up the first time and falling in love with it. Really, I finding it for myself. My dad had a guitar; he played a few songs, and just embedded that into me. But I think I've always seeked that realness and that authenticity of like the blues. The blues has always touched me in a really deep way. I love that humanness of the old Delta blues, and they're just out there really putting their heart into it. I think that speaks Christ to us, you know. So I would say just I found it myself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, well said. I think we see that already coming through your music. We just felt like you were saying this reminds me of home, and I'm like, yeah, we have that here too. You know, it's just soulful, and it's just even just the acoustic vibe, and it's just yeah, you're putting out some beautiful stuff. So it's so
Thank you.
cool. Yeah. So when did you want to go like into the profession? You know, like when did you know like okay, I'm going to do music full time, or you know, kind of make that dream happen?
Yeah. When I was in high school, I had a buddy that we we had a band. We started a band in junior high. We called it Negative Zero. Don't know, it doesn't make any sense. It's terrible. But it was drums and guitar, a negative zero. I don't know if that's mathematically a thing or not, but no. Okay, good.
I don't think I'm no
You can start
mathematician,
it.
but it's a neutral, isn't it? But
Sure.
These junior high kids coming up with oxymorons. Negative zero. But we had this band room out in our barn. It was way too small and way too loud to be playing music in because I mean I probably lost some hearing out there. Just going out there just jamming out. It didn't matter if it was good. It was just a raw emotion. And we both decided we wanted to go to school to learn how to record this stuff and make ourselves sound good, not necessarily learn how to play music. So my undergrad is in audio engineering, not in theology.
okay.
So that's where all the recording comes from. It's just learning that recording. But I ended up actually going to I had a good friend. I did start a real band in high school at one point, but I had a good friend who was the singer for our band. We were co-singers, and her father was a roadie and the secondhand man to Pete Townsend from The Who.
Oh.
So he knew Pete Townsend really well. He knew people like Eric Clapton super, super well. And I went to a
Wow.
concert and I got to go backstage and meet these people. And I was like, I'm doing this. I'm going to school for this.
That's cool. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So very, very direct inspiration from the real big people, like The Who and yeah.
Yeah. And Eric Clapton, like, oh my
And
god.
Eric Clapton.
Oh,
Yeah.
Crazy.
Legend.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, this guy actually gets gets birthday cards and Christmas cards from Eric Clapton, which just every year blows my mind. But I love having conversations with him.
Oh man,
yeah.
no kidding. No.
Yeah,
Gosh.
Yeah.
lives like a couple doors down from me.
Oh wow.
You're
So
like, can I be there when you get that code?
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, one of the first concert I ever live shows I ever played, I got to play through Mick Jagger's amp that he used on stage.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I felt
Dang.
way over. I mean, it was way beyond me. I'm like, I'm not even. I can't even. What? I can't do this. So
Right.
it's cool. It's very cool.
That's cool. Little blessings, little gifts from the Lord. That's
Yeah,
actually kind of a
right.
big gift,
Yeah.
not even a little one.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
Right. So I want to ask you about your writing process. You do post a lot about the process, and like as you were saying, like music is a way to just express those raw human emotions and struggles. And um, so do you have a specific strategy, if you will, or like, because some people have to like sit down and think about it, and it's beautiful, but they work it out more, or do songs for you kind of just more flow from experience? How is that for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I love talking about the process because it cultivates a conversation between artists. A lot of people I talk to are artists as well. And so they get to share how they go about it. And it's really interesting to me because different music comes out of me if I do it a different way. Sometimes I'll just come home and I'll write uh I'll write lyrics and I'm like, oh, this is cool. This will work. But it's coming from a place of pain that day or of joy that day. But if I was to say I have a process, I'd have to say, uh, I do have a process that if I'm really needing to write a song, but I can't get anything out, I have a typewriter. So I sit on my guitar and I have hundreds of ideas that are just sitting with me that I've just jammed out to. And I'm like, I like this. This could work years from now, maybe if it ever comes to fruition. But I can't write lyrics like that. I don't have lyrics that are just lying around. So I sit at my typewriter. And the reason I use a typewriter is this process because a lot of times you're using paper. I'm a mess. So my handwriting, I can't read. So I'm scribbling things out. I'm like, oh, what did I say there? I can't figure out what I said there, And then if I'm writing on the computer, on like Google Docs or something, a lot of times it will, I'll typing really fast because I want to get my ideas out. So I'll make a mistake and then the red underlines will come up and things will get crossed out because I misspelled something and it distracts me from this process of art, and I go back and fix it and then I lose what I was saying. So this typewriter idea came to my mind because I can't fix the mistakes. I just have to keep going. I just have to keep typing. And a lot of times the mistakes are minor. They're nothing that I can't figure out what I meant to say. And I can read it because it's not my handwriting. So the typewriter is definitely a big form of the process for me. Outside of that, things kind of just naturally work into place. Yeah.
Wow, that is cool. I love it. I love it. It's like a vintage, idea,
Yeah,
right? Like to use
it's
that.
authentic and it's human.
Oh yeah, there's art. That's awesome.
Right. And I love that too, because like, I don't know if you're like this, but a lot of people like, they just don't express themselves the same way through like a computer, like just the physical act of being able to write something out. But again, like it's hard, as you were saying, to like read your handwriting, but a typewriter still has that, not that a computer doesn't, but it still has that like physical feedback in a lot of ways that like a keyboard on a computer doesn't. And I don't know. So it seems like that could be a really cool way to like get out thoughts and like keep that human element too.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta be consistent with the things I say. If I'm gonna preach this authenticity in life, then I gotta be consistent with that.
Right. And then the second point that I think is great, like I think one reason why people struggle writing creatively is that like, yeah, the mistakes, like, oh, it doesn't sound great right now, or like these little blocks that like look so much bigger. And then to have the visual of like grammar, like Grammarly or whatever it is, like that's an even like like a stronger distraction, as you were saying, to like the mistake. And you're like, no, I don't want to focus on that right now. I just want the creative process.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there.
Okay, so I guess I have like a sort of a double question. You kind of mentioned like your faith growing up, but was there any moment, how'd your conversion happen? Were you cradle Catholic? That kind of your faith and then I suppose to marry that into maybe part of that happened through your music, and obviously we're always developing still. But yeah, how does it all come together?
Yeah. a lot of people, when I give my story, a lot of people consider it a Pauline story. This one moment that happened that just converted a very, very broken, um, Christian hater almost, right? But I would actually say it was more of an Augustine story. It was very, very slow and really drawn out. And I still kind of feel like I'm just trudging through mud to get out of this. Like, I got to get past this point because it just keeps pulling me back down. So I definitely say it was Augustine conversion. There wasn't really one moment that just changed everything for me. It's been a big, long process. And I've, reading the saints, that's been consistently true for that some saints just have a one moment thing that they just flip their life around. And then other people slowly figure, oh, okay, this is who the Lord is. Not that I'm anywhere near saint, but hopefully in the process, hopefully. So, there were bigger moments than others, and Your Embrace, the song Your Embrace, consecration song, was probably specifically about that moment, one of those big moments for me. I was dating it's quite a long story. I was dating a girl. I'll try and shorten it and not say the things that'll make more questions arise. But I was dating a girl, and she was very Catholic. I wasn't. I was a leather jacket wearing, crazy, hippie rock star. But she was attracted to me for some reason. She was very interested in who I was and what I was doing, and I always had this authentic heart and this heart for God, but I pushed him away, and I kind of hated him. But she saw me, and it was up to that point, the only woman I really, really, really ever fell in love with. But I was in this place of darkness. So it was these polar opposites. And she began bringing me to church, and I was willing to go because I was so deeply infatuated with her. So my relationship with God became it was really founded on her, at that point, which was not healthy in any way. But she brought me to mass. She brought me to mass a lot. And as I was going to mass, there was a moment of I was watching the priest, and I should definitely not have been receiving at this time in my life. But there was a moment where the priest was holding the Eucharist up, and he said, "Behold him who takes away the sins of the world." And there was this moment that just like it slapped me upside the face. I'd heard that so many times. I was born, I was a cradle Catholic. But hearing that priest say that and the way he said it, I knew he really, really meant it. And I knew he really, really believed it. And I said, what? How is somebody able to think this so deeply? And it struck me really, really heavily. And I was kind of knocked on my butt for a few weeks at that point in my life, So years later, probably about 2 or 3 years later, when I was actually closer to Christ, and I was going to mass of my own free will, and after this woman left me, there's a whole lot to that story, obviously, but I had sat down and thought back to that moment of behold him who takes away the sins of the world, and I'm not worthy that you should enter under my roof, but only say the word and my soul shall be healed. And I just sat there and I just wrote the words of the mass and the simple guitar part, and I said, this is the song that's going to ground me for the rest of my life in my faith. Super simple. It's one of the most boring songs I have that I play. I'm not gonna lie, but it's the most impactful for me. So yeah, that moment came out through my music, just like you were asking, and yeah, it was beautiful. I loved it. So that I would say that was probably the biggest moment.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know about you, but I just feel like I could just soak that in for a bit. That's something for our listeners to ponder. And I think so many people are in that place. They may be even going to church, maybe because of a boyfriend or girlfriend, and just, but they know something's there. And oof, I don't know. Yeah, it's a simple song to you, but I think it shows at least our listeners, your fans, just the depth of like a song like your consecration song there. What happened for you to produce this song? And it's a gorgeous song. I listened to it twice today, actually. And, it's just wow. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's well, I'm not a musician or an artist, so I can't really totally relate, but I wonder, like, yeah, it sounds one way to us, and then an audience is going to receive it however they receive it. But sometimes it's just the simplicity that can bring someone like back to like the place that they need to be, right? Sometimes we are so complex, so busy in our thoughts, and we even like in our Christian faith, we overcomplicate things so much. But just to go back to the simple, as God is simple, right? And just let those words that, like you were saying, the words of the mass, they aren't that complex. They're not like like complex sentences, or grammatically they're not even like anything special or elegant, but they reflect who God is, and they reflect the way that God wants us to move in our faith journey, just like in that peaceful embrace, in that peaceful, simple movement towards heaven and movement towards Him. And so that kind of just is what sticks out to me as you're sharing that story.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I'm sweating quite a bit. We're up to 106 in here, and
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually sweating myself. If it makes you feel any better.
Okay. It's probably got
I wouldn't say it's
AC
106 in here, but
for the next question, obviously you've partnered with other musicians. I'm sure you're in conversation with other musicians quite a bit. What do you think, like, one of the biggest challenges for a musician is today in the modern era? You can answer that as like coming from like a Catholic perspective, or just for music in general.
oh yeah. That was my first question. Was, do you mean Catholic musicians, or what is the biggest challenge? I want to make sure I got that right. What is the biggest challenge for a musician in today's world? Right. Okay. You know, this art form, and I was just thinking about this recently. This art form is very difficult, especially in today's culture with Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, where you don't get any return on it. It's very, very low return. As you guys know, YouTube doesn't. You don't get a whole lot of return from views on YouTube. Same thing with Spotify and these other things. So, this art form is not a visual art form. It's really difficult to get people interested in it without talking about it to people. So this kind of delves into both the Catholic perspective and just the musician perspective in general. But I have this difficulty with pride because I have a decent following on Instagram, for example. And in order for me to be able to keep doing music, I have to make some sort of money off of it. In order for me to have microphones and guitars like this, I have to be able to make a living in some way. And that means I have to market myself, which feeds this pride that I've given myself, that I've taken upon myself in my past, and now I try to get rid of. And then I'm coming back into a place of flourishing with my music, and I'm like, well, I don't want pride, but at the same time, I need to help people see my music in some sense. And I think that's pretty. I feel like that's pretty true for all musicians. This marketing thing is getting people to see their music, and I think the solution comes from this place of authentic and human encounter. And I think that's why I write my music in the way I do, as we discussed a little bit before, but also like person to person contact, like real authentic connection. So when I first get a new follower, I always reach out personally, to say, like, can I pray for you? Can I talk? How can I talk with you? I do send like a message, like, here's my music, but I always make sure that I talk to the person outside of that first message, because I think it's important that there's a human connection. I don't want it to become all about me and me putting my music to these people and like, here, listen to my music, give me money. That's not what music was about for me. It wasn't about money. It was just me enjoying putting my heart into something. And I think that's a big part of the struggle as a musician, is that it's not about the heart anymore. It's not about the music anymore, you know? So all those things play into this big snowball of a problem.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's a lot. You're giving us so much. That's just can see the amount of self-reflection you've done, and yeah, I mean, it's true. You do have to like get your name out there, right? It's your brand, and at the same time, trying to be a Christian and trying to be humble. How do you like balance that and figure out like the proper ordering of everything, right? How to align and
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is something that we have discussed though. Like, okay, how do we grow? Like, we feel like we've been called to this ministry. We don't have like the background of like how to do audio and tech, and you do more so than I do, but like these like logistical things. But then, you know, growing a channel on YouTube, again, that's like a difficult thing because there's so many, right? But we feel like, okay, Lord, you're calling us to go forward when we pray about it, but how is this going to happen? We get like a new subscriber like every however often, right? Not that often.
You got one
So
today.
it is that like
Thanks.
humble trust. Thank you. Like bells. They always say that, right? And so it's like, and so we watch like these videos, like, okay, how do you grow a channel? And it's always like, tell them to subscribe, tell them to like do all these things and magic like whistles and blah blah blah. And I'm like, that's just not who I am. Like that's not my style. That's not why we want to do this. But that same conflict, that's the way people get out there. So do you like?
You almost have to.
Yeah, it's so.
Yeah. It's rough. One thing I've thought about is and like you're doing it right now, this human connection with other people that, you know, we're going to benefit from doing this together. But it's not about that. It's not like I didn't say yes to this because I wanted more people to see my music. I said that yes to this because I wanted a human connection with you guys, right? And so it doesn't become about pride in that way, and it works for itself, you know. And I think that's so beautiful, and I think that's the only way a Catholic can think about it, is keeping in mind that I'm not going to do this for the pride. I'm going to do this because I just want to love people, you know.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, you know, it's kind of like the Lord calls you, keep your head down, just keep going, right? And he can take care of if he wants to build it, or I mean, we'll do everything we can with our knowledge and such, but you know, we have full-time jobs, so it's like trying to do this on the side. It's just like, oh my goodness, maybe it's just for fun, but yeah. So, so our next question sort of actually leads into where you were talking, but like artists in general, we are just talking, I think maybe a week ago or something, like, gosh, you know, so many people go to their job and they just don't like it, unfortunately, feel dead end, feel bored, don't want to go inside when they'd rather be out in the sun working, whatever the deal is. We're like, well, people do have passions though, but it's so few, it seems like, at least in corporate America, right? Get to really live out their passions. And it's like a sadness. So many people are working, grinding away, and they're making a living. That's beautiful, supporting family, but they're not really always executing the passion. So the question is for artists, I don't know if you're able to answer it or just chip in on it. Just like, how can artists, I guess, survive, right? Make enough? How can you live with the balance between passion and, you know, where do you draw the line? And oof, it gets kind of gray, but
yeah, passion and like a lot of people say you have to go to the real world where you have to like pay the bills, right? That's always live your passion or be in the real world. And it's like, does there have to be this like opposition? Or like, yeah, we kind of just wanted to pick your brain about that concept or idea.
Oh man, hitting with the heavy questions now.
we saved it till number 10. No.
You know, I've thought about this a lot, and I've thought about, as a guitarist, when I first started playing guitar, my fingers bled, and most people think they're gonna start guitar and they're gonna get up on stage and they're just gonna drive everybody crazy, like, this crazy, oh my gosh, right? He's right there. But when you first pick up the guitar, your fingers are bleeding. And when you find out that my fingers bled when I first played guitar, you're like, I don't want to play guitar. I don't want that to happen. You know, you shy away from it. You freak out. You're like, I don't want to touch the guitar. That's not a thing for me. Somebody picks up the guitar and starts learning it, and their fingers are in pain and they're bleeding, and they give up. And you have to ask yourself, was that person passionate about it in the same way that I was passionate about it? Or is he passionate about guitar in the same way that he's passionate about making movies? And obviously he didn't have the same amount of passion as me and as he did for something else. And immediately it comes back to Christ for me. Because I think of the reason he called it the Passion of the Cross. The movie is called The Passion, or the story is The Passion. Why is it the Passion of Christ? Well, you watch that movie and you read the story, and he embraces his cross and he kisses his cross, and he sees it and he knows what it's going to stand for, and he loves it, and he sees this trajectory towards beauty and salvation for people. And it was hurt, it was painful, like the whole way up to Calvary was painful, but he loved it, and he told his mother, take courage, this is good. And I reflect on that, and I'm nowhere near that. He embraced his cross with more love than I would ever embrace my guitar, and that blows my mind. But the fact is I have to take Calvary. I have to get through Calvary in order to get to the resurrection as an artist. I have to take Calvary and go through this painful process. And a lot of times that's happening in the church today. The church has to go through the crucifixion to get to the resurrection. It has to be crucified. Marriage has to be crucified. The family has to be crucified. It has to. Otherwise, we're not going to get to the resurrection. And we think that the end of, if the church is losing people, that's a bad sign. But in the end, it's really just pointing towards the resurrection. And so, I think that the greatest answer for that question is that if you really love something, you're not going to shy away from the struggles that it's going to bear. You're just going to keep going. And God led the people through the Exodus, through the desert. And they were like, this is not going to work. We're not going to make it. How is this going to happen? How are we going to get there? There's no way. And that's why they failed. It was because they didn't believe that he was going to get them to the paradise. They didn't believe that he was going to lead them. I want to take that on in my ministry and in my life. I want to take that on. And I hope that other artists will take that on as well.
Yeah, beautifully said. One of the goals of our show is to take the things of daily life and just be able to take time to more deeply reflect on them. And I think that's just what you did for us here. Like, music is a part of our day to day, but like, what's the deeper significance of that? What is the way that we can reflect on this that in a way that elevates our soul? And I think you just did that for us. Like, everything is pointing to the cross and the resurrection. And so thank you for sharing that. You said that, like, yeah, that's what you hope for your music, is that you're going somewhere. So do you have any, like what are your dreams for your music? You say it's for you. Do you have any personal projects that you're really excited about and looking forward to? What's on your horizon?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that you guys are in the middle of an art right now, and you're definitely suffering for it. I can see the sweat on your shirts.
Thanks, brother.
Oh my gosh, look at this. 115 now.
I love this idea for a podcast, for a video on YouTube. It's great. You should take that on. You're suffering for this art in the middle of an interview. That's perfect.
I never thought of it that way.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
that should be your marketing scheme, and throw that out there. That's great. It's genius, actually.
It's funny when we first started, we're like, gosh, there's so many talk shows, and I don't know why, we're like, we have a sauna. What if we did a talk show to sauna? Has anyone ever done
amazing.
that? And, it's been fun. But yeah, you're right. There's this offering. We should offer that up more.
Yeah, we should.
There you go. And it's a Christian talk show. I love that idea. I've been thinking about that this entire time, but what better time to bring it up than right now, right?
Yeah, totally. As we're wiping our foreheads.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat that question one more time?
What are your hopes and dreams? Like, what's on the horizon for you? What are you looking for?
Well, that depends on if I want to make an official announcement that I'm working on a new project or not, I guess.
Okay.
We don't want to force it.
Yeah. No, there's I am working on I'm working on a new album right now, as well as actually I'm working on an EP, a worship album EP, just simple music. And then I'm also working on a very like jazzy, bluesy, kind of like the other stuff album. And I'm really, really, really excited for this jazz album, this jazz rock blues album. I don't know what you'd call it really, but it sounds very Jordan, as a lot of my friends have told me.
Awesome.
And it came from the liturgy, and it was inspired by the words of the liturgy. And I'll just say one thing. During the consecration, the priest says to send your spirit down like the dew fall upon these gifts. He said, it's Eucharistic prayer too. He says to send your spirit down like the dew fall. And that struck me for some reason. And I prayed with it. And I wondered, why does he say send your spirit down like the dew fall and not like the rain fall?
Yes,
And
because
it's
dew doesn't
because
fall, right?
and dew doesn't fall. It's present. He's making visible an invisible reality.
Never caught it. Wow.
Oh, that is
Yeah, he's making
genius.
visible this invisible reality. And it really struck me. It struck me in such a way that I was sitting in mass and I knew that I had to write an album. And that's all I'll say on that one. As for the
That
worship
is
album,
cool. I love that.
I'm really excited for that. There's a lot of stuff. I have about 10 other people around Franciscan and from back home that have helped me on it. So it's the church is a community. So, I'm working with other people. So it's going to be great. And then the worship album is just in the works too. It's kind of just me throwing songs together and just worshiping with them.
Wow, that's cool. There you go, guys. Stay tuned for that, huh?
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, how can our fans find you, basically, is our question. So, we're definitely going to drop your links in the comments below, but anywhere else you would direct them. Some will be on YouTube, some will be listening to us on audio podcast platforms as well.
Yeah. I'm on all of the main music avenues. You can go to Spotify, iTunes. You can follow me on Instagram. And keep updated with things that I'm thinking about. Typically, it's just things that I'm thinking about and praying. And YouTube has all my music, and I do plan to release videos someday once I get more time of just thoughts, just kind of like Instagram. But yeah.
Can I ask a bonus question?
Yeah, go for it.
Did your dog ever get the ball out of the tree?
That
was so cute.
He didn't. I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
What a
Gotham
good
is
owner.
around here somewhere, actually.
To all our listeners, definitely check this guy out. His music's just so deep. It's chill. It's like exciting. I love the part of getting jazzy with it. Just where he's headed in the future. I don't know what your reflections are, some of the songs you listen to, but oh man, we're gonna listen to a lot more. So
yes, we are. I love it. I love that I can just put on a song and I just feel like I'm driving over the mountain passes back home, and it's just, I don't know. It just brings a peace and serenity. So
thank you so much. That's one of the best compliments I can get. God bless you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Okay, I guess that's a wrap on this Life Talk show.
We're pretty sweaty, so we better go take a chow, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
All right, see y'all later.
Ciao.
Daffodil, dandelion, you only know if you blow. Dead in the wind or a spring flower, could only tell if I breathed you in. But it seems so easy to distrust my intuition in this season that is perennial. Breathing from a distance, I believe I've listened.